The Saw movie franchise has always fascinated me. If you grew up as a spooky little mid-90s to early 2000s kid like me, it was basically impossible to avoid its allure. Ultra-violent torture porn with gross industrial aesthetics and a creepy-ass clown doll as a mascot, where morally compromised people are put through depraved tests of will by a dying maniac? What 9-year-old wouldn't be enamored? Unfortunately, as a child, I don't believe I was allowed to actually watch Saw. I had to settle for far more child-friendly things like Hostel and House of Wax. This only made the series seem more esoteric and drew me further towards the films. Being well before the rise of streaming platforms, I really had no means to access them. I couldn't buy the DVDs because I was a child, and I wouldn't dare hijack my brother's LimeWire and interrupt their, Limp Bizkit MP3 torrents, or whatever the hell they were downloading. Maybe it was, like, Eminem. Basically any kind of music that would fit a 2007 World of Warcraft PvP montage. I think there was also some WWE themes in there too. The 2000s were a strange time. So in order to satiate my Saw fascination, I relied on tidbits from reviews, articles, and plot synopses online. Glimpses of various traps and their aftermaths was enough for little Painticus, and soon enough I moved on to other, more accessible horror media. It took me a shockingly long time to get around to actually watching the films, and this was after reading so many reviews and comments from years after the series' start that labeled the films as nothing more than edgy shock value schlock. But despite a lot of the hate I'd seen, I still expected the films to be these monolithic things that would traumatize me, because the fear that younger me felt towards the series really did stick with me for whatever reason. And when I did watch them, well, they didn't traumatize me, but I will tell you, despite the mixed reviews that the series has received, I adored them. Truly, unironically, Saw is a brilliant series. Individually, the films aren't all great. In fact, there's only a few I'd consider to be genuinely good. Is there any other series on Earth where the 6th entry is genuinely the best? Honestly, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
These politicians, they say the same thing over and over and over again. Healthcare decisions should be made by doctors and their patients, not by the government. Well, now I know they're not made by doctors and their patients or by the government. They're made by the fucking insurance companies. Piranha.
John.
But this video is not about the movies. If you want an excellent video on them, check out this video by Pim's Crypt. They convinced me to watch the films I hadn't yet seen, and good lord, I am grateful for that. No, this video is about video games. Video games that capture that same wonderful vibe. Urban decay, twisted tests of the human spirit, punishment of the flesh in the perverted pursuit of redemption, and an insane killer driven by unwavering beliefs. And an impeccable dress sense. And yes, before we get into it, I know there are 2 legitimate official Saw video games. This video is not about them. Those are a whole other thing. Anyway, let's start by talking about a game that, much like the Saw series, fascinated a younger me. And, much like the Saw series, didn't quite, well, yeah. When Heavy Rain was first revealed to the world, I was absolutely obsessed with the idea. A game where you could influence the story via choices? Absolutely unheard of. At least, that's what it seemed like to me, despite the fact that I was well aware of several other games that also did this while having substantially more going on. Boy, does marketing really work. Despite not being the first of what I would call Telltale-style games, which is hilarious considering Telltale didn't really make it big until well after Heavy Rain's release, Heavy Rain really did become the poster child for the genre for quite some time. Well, at least until The Walking Dead and Life is Strange came along. And that's odd because, well, I mean, the game is odd. I streamed it not too long ago, and both me and my chat were pretty taken aback by most of it. It has some of the most horrifically uncanny human, and I'm being generous calling it human, interaction I have ever seen. On top of things like pointless over-sexualization of the only playable woman, peculiar writing and tonal choices, and a very suspect treatment of race.
Hey, Cracker! What you doing?
Oh. This is that character's voice actor. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy this game. It was absurd, it was schlocky, and it was hilarious. But most of all, it scratched a little bit of that Saw itch. And here's why. The story follows 4 separate playable characters as they try to hunt down the elusive origami killer. And hey, it's like I've said in basically every other video, origami is the jigsaw of folding. So yeah, there's an immediate link, and much like Jigsaw, the origami killer doesn't kill randomly or immediately. He kidnaps children, locking them in drains, forcing their parents to go to extreme lengths to save them and prove their love, and if the parents fail, the child drowns in rainwater, it's pretty fucked up.
Hello, Kaylee Braxton. You might be wondering why you've woken up in a storm drain. Well, just don't worry about it. If you could just wait here for a few days, that would be perfect. Live or die. Make your choice.
Set against the backdrop of a gloomy and decaying urban environment, we play as one of these parents, Ethan Mars, who has a pretty poor track record of saving his kids to begin with, and much like the Saw movies, outside of the main A story of people trying to survive a serial killer, there's just some other miscellaneous shit going on too. We've got a private detective, a cop that really loves his magic cop glasses and evil cop meth, and a woman that the developers seem to hate. And the 2 cop characters are a brilliant fit for a Saw game. The FBI agent Norman Jayden especially, given the prominence of the feds doing their own investigations in the Saw movies. Side note about this guy, he gets into a fight in every single scene he is in, and it's absolutely hilarious. Surprisingly, the Saw series really doesn't have a history of exploiting its female characters, which is very uncharacteristic of 2000 slasher/torture porn films. Heavy Rain, on the other hand, yeah. You're introduced to her in a scene where she fights ninjas in her underwear, and it turns out it's a dream sequence. And then there's a striptease minigame, and the love interest angle. It's all very shit. But going back to our main guy, Ethan, he has to go through the trials of the origami killer throughout the game. Examples of these include crawling through tunnels of shattered glass and navigating a horrible abandoned factory, killing a man in his child's room, driving into oncoming traffic, and cutting off one of his own fingers. Some of these segments provide genuinely great use of the interactive drama gameplay format. I really did cringe when I had to hack off bits of my body, especially when I failed a few times. It's just a shame we also have to play the segments where he's being a bad parent and can't turn around correctly. The game, much like many of the Saw films, could have just worked if it was just his main story. Having the other ones going on too can work at times, but it doesn't really land here. At least in the Saw films we get cool overarching plots involving the people running the fucked up games and whatnot, and not striptease minigames. Flaws of the game aside, the setting, characters, and story are all incredibly reminiscent of Saw, and I would be surprised if it wasn't directly inspired by it. I feel like the interactive drama format could absolutely work for an official Saw video game. It's a series that could really be exploited by some other very specific gameplay formats too. Imagine the Saw game with the point-and-click stress simulation of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, or the puzzle box format of The Room. The game series, not the movie. It's just a shame that such a fitting format came in the form of Heavy Rain, a game that is notable, but for very few good reasons. For those of you who don't know, which is almost all of you, I have some other channels on top of this one. There's Painticus Archive, where I archive all of my previous streams, and Painticus Highlights, which has absolutely nothing on it so far, but I soon plan to edit down my Heavy Rain streams into the highlights and upload it there, so go subscribe to those channels if that interests you. Now, on to the next game, which is the one that inspired this video to begin with. I remember having absolutely no interest in this game whatsoever when it was first announced. I'm really not that interested in the Outlast franchise, and I've been burned in the past by single-player series going multiplayer. But then I saw John Wolfe play the closed beta for it, and I saw all the weird torture machinery and horrible rusty shit and people grinders, and I knew I had to try it. And boy, let me tell you, if you're looking for a game with a Saw vibe, this is the one to go for. Let's start by looking at the aesthetics and setting. Almost all of the game takes place in these enormous, decayed structures that have been built as normal places, but converted into insane torture dungeons, much like the buildings that Jigsaw himself designed. Yeah, if you didn't know, John Kramer was a successful architect before becoming a person shredder. Fun fact. And by God, do they nail the horrendous rotted look in the Outlast Trials. Cracked tile, exposed wires, peeling wallpaper, miscellaneous filth, shattered glass, fluorescent lighting, boarded up windows, rusted metal, bloodstains, and worst of all, litter, all add to this beautiful tapestry of calculated neglect that few other games, movies, and shows can compete with, other than Saw. Honestly, there's not an inch of this entire game that wouldn't riddle you with tetanus, and I adore that.
Hello, Grungable. You have lived your life draining the world of its light by mocking those who use paper straws on your internet forums. Now it's time for you to repent before the very life is sucked out of you too. Also, I seriously hope you're up to date with your vaccines.
Even the safe area, the game's pre-trial lobby, is pretty horrific despite being much cleaner and safer. In place of the cameras and one-way mirrors that the Saw movies had, all throughout both the hub area and the trials themselves are these horrible faceless scientists and unflinching security guards that really make you feel like a rat in a maze. It feels like if Jigsaw got a really big investment or government funding and started hiring on staff that weren't massive liabilities, and generally speaking, the whole industrialized suffering vibe that the game has really gives the feeling of an upscaled Jigsaw production. The biggest difference between the Murkoff Foundation and Jigsaw is their ultimate goal, with Jigsaw trying to get people to redeem themselves and rekindle their love for life, and Murkoff trying to create MK Ultra spies, but hey, both just want you to be the best you that you can be. And let me tell you, the expansion of the torture industry doesn't mean it's lost any of its grassroots soul. The guy at the end of each of the trials that ranks how you performed is genuinely invested in how you've done. If you do well, he congratulates you and compliments you to the ends of the earth. And if you do badly, he's genuinely disappointed, and it's really quite upsetting. I don't know why they call it a syndrome. Stockholm seems lovely. Gameplay-wise, this is pretty much exactly what I look for from a game that isn't using some kind of bespoke interactive drama or puzzle thing like I mentioned earlier. While the game doesn't have you stuck in interactive traps or anything quite like that, it has the closest thing you can reasonably expect while still being one of these run-and-hide style Outlast Amnesia games. You have other people stuck in traps, and you have to execute them. How fun! It's not just a torture simulator though, you're often pursued by a colourful cast of bastards. There are the main ones, Leland the bastard cop and Gooseberry the bastard puppeteer, and then there's a number of B and C list bastards running around, ranging from the iconic big guys to the lowly screech men. Funnily, the enemies you run into are not leagues away from the enemies you would encounter in the 2 official Saw games. They're just leagues better. There's not really combat per se, which makes sense as it would be odd to have proper combat in a Saw game. Isn't that right? Saw and Saw 2 Flesh and Blood. But you can chuck bricks and bottles and little stun machines at folk to distract or delay them. You also get the classic Saw door traps, but instead of blowing your head open or blowing your face open, they blow your chest open. I suppose upscaling your business does lead to more health and safety requirements. And if you're good enough at the game and complete enough of the trials and so on, I believe you can be set free, which once again follows the classic Saw formula. And, you know, much like every Saw protagonist, I haven't done it, because I've clearly not ground up enough people yet. But when the game comes out of early access, I'll likely make a dedicated video for it talking about the rest of its features too. But for now, all you have to know is that this truly is the best thing you can get if you're looking for a Saw video game right now. The next game I'm going to talk about is actually one I stumbled upon while writing this video because I was just sort of playing it in my own time, and it fit surprisingly well. Oh, also, one last thing about Outlast Trials. I mean, come on. You know, I don't think we've really explored the possibilities of a Saw-type story taking place in an apocalypse setting. I may be wrong, those things might exist already, but by God does Dead Money provide a look into what that could be. Being the first story DLC released for Fallout New Vegas, Dead Money could have been a standard Fallout DLC, just being a new area with new quests to explore in a wacky post-apocalypse world, but Obsidian decided to go in a different direction. Yes, their first DLC was a horror heist in a zombie casino city of eternal night. I like their moxie. Generally, the DLC is divisive because it's so different to the rest of the game, it has insane difficulty scaling, is very linear, and is something of a giant maze. But narratively speaking, whoa boy. And the setting? Whew. And the characters? Yash man. I've not really seen this spoken of as a Saw-like in the past, other than one forum post, but the similarities are very much here. I mean, it even starts off with you being gassed, and then dragged to a scary abandoned place by an animal thing, and then directly addressed over some creepy speakers by an older guy that strapped a bomb collar around your neck. Granted, Elijah is a lot more rambly than Jigsaw, who once again is proving that he is the best sadistic torture king. And then you're introduced to the other people that have also been kidnapped, and you must work together with them or suffer the consequences. They're also complete assholes, which fits Saw very nicely, minus Christine, who's generally a sweetheart. Actually, the kidnapped folk don't really have much of a moral sin to atone for like they would in Saw. The player just came because they were curious, Christine was hunting down a provably dangerous man, Dog and/or God is just mentally ill, and Dean Domino was... well, actually no, yeah, he is a bastard. Together, you have to help Elijah break into the Sierra Madre, a casino that never had the chance to open before the nuclear war, which just happened to really get in the way of events management, hit the United States. An interesting twist on the Saw formula here is that while Elijah is very much the Jigsaw figure that kidnaps you and forces you to navigate through traps and dangers and zombies, he didn't actually set up most of it. It's like if Jigsaw's victims outsourced their tasks to independent sub-victims, and as for the actual traps and so on that are around, there's quite a selection. There are your run-of-the-mill bear traps, shotgun tripwires, and grenade pressure plates, but there's also some more unique ones that you as the player get to force other companions into. You can force Christine to work in a terrible little chamber that's almost exactly like the horrific medical device that carved her up when she arrived. You can trick God into a trauma-induced alter ego and lock him in a little work area that would starve him, and you can force Dean Domino to get swarmed by hordes of ghost people. That last one isn't super Saw-like, I'll admit. And the surroundings for each of these are just wonderful. The whole Sierra Madre area is perfect. It's dingy, rotten, rusty, crumbling, full of dangerous gas and failing industrial elements, and has immortal holograms that shoot you using their brain. To be fair, the movie Jigsaw did have crazy laser traps, so that last one isn't as far off as it seems. The end of the DLC may be the most Saw-like in some regards, however. So once you've navigated through the Sierra Madre's many perils and completed Elijah's tasks, you reach a vault full of unimaginable wealth, which is surrounded by millions of laser turrets. Now, the wealth reward isn't very Saw-like, but the way it's handled absolutely is, especially given how many ways there are to navigate it. First of all, you can decide you want all of the vault's riches to yourself, and if you do decide that, you get locked inside of it forever. You literally get game overed. Alternatively, in a far better ending, you can lock Elijah in the vault, game overing him. I love this ending because the whole DLC has this theme of letting go, something that every other character involved has failed to do for one reason or another. Minus the courier, who, once again, just kind of turned up.
Hello, courier. I want to play a game. It's called Caravan.
Alternatively, you can just fight Elijah, and well, it's a bit less climactic. And just like at the end of all the Saw movies, if you make it out, you get to carry several tons of gold bars with you too. And that about covers it for the games in this video. In writing the script for this, I came across several other notable games that could possibly work for this concept too, like the Dark Picture Anthology's The Devil in Me, another interactive drama game like Heavy Rain. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know and I'll likely make a part 2. And if you really want, I'll review the 2 official Saw games. But that actually will take some convincing. You know, I considered reaching out to Lionsgate for this video to get a sponsorship for Saw 10 or Saw X, but I doubt a strange little man with under 10k subs who disparages their officially licensed video games would actually get very far with that, but hey ho. Go and watch Saw 10 when it comes out later this month. But for now, thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more from me, you can check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Painticus, subscribe to Painticus Highlights and Archive for stream content, join the Discord linked in the description, and you can also support the channel on Patreon at patreon.com/Painticus, much like these fine people have. And a special shout out to my $10 patrons, the original Tex-Mex, Carissa Fulcher, Ernst the Ace, Tyler Parker, and Untrusted Life. Anyway, join me back here in a couple of weeks for another video on something or other. I am yet to decide. But until then, bye bye.